So this lesson is going to be on how to find midpoint. So our first question is that we've been given a number line and our goal is to find the midpoint between 12 and -4. Now you'll notice a lot of these questions seem very similar to the questions we did the other day when we were finding distance. And that's because I'm actually using a lot of the same points. We're just doing a little bit of a different technique because I'm no longer looking for the distance. I'm actually looking for the midpoint or the middle of these two things. So I'm going to put 12 and -4 on here again. And the other day, we figured out that the distance between these 2 points is 8. I'm sorry, 16. I'm thinking ahead of myself. This is 16. You'll see in just a moment why 8 matters. All right, now if I want the middle, I have to take that space and divide it by 2. That's where the 8 came from. So if I count 8 to the left from 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that puts me at 4. Now I should be able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's 8 there too. So that tells me that this distance is 8, and this distance is 8. So I am directly in the middle of those 2 points. Now it's a little bit different when I go to the graph. So if I do this graphically, I'm going to graph A and B. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So here's A. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's B. And I'm actually going to show you how to do this 3 different ways. Because you know that one way is never enough in my book. So there's A and B. The first way we're going to do is very similar to what we did the other day when we were finding distance. So I'm going to make myself my triangle. And I'm going to figure out the vertical and the horizontal distance. This direction, if you count how many spaces there are here, there's actually 11 spaces horizontally and 6 vertically. So now I need to think about cutting that vertical and that horizontal distance in half. So 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. 11 divided by 2 gives me 5.5. So from point B or point A, I should be able to count vertically 3 spaces and horizontally 5.5 spaces, and that will find me the midpoint. So I'm going to go down 3 spaces, and I'm going to actually make a tick mark here just so you can see that this direction I also have 3 spaces. So this this horizontal trip over to the line is going to tell me, well, now I've cut that distance vertically right in half. And I'm going to make 2 like mini triangles. So from here, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Now, if I look this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's also 5.5. So that's perfect. And if you look, I kind of cut this into 2 mini triangles here that have the same vertical distance of 3 and the same horizontal distance of 5.5. And it gives me my midpoint. So here my midpoint, and I always label it as M, is the point -0.51. Now again, as promised, I'm going to show you how to do this 3 different ways. The next way I'm going to show you is actually in a table. So I'm going to put A and B into a table. So 5, -2, and -6, 4. And I'm going to look at how much space is in between those numbers. So here I'm adding 6, and here I had to subtract 11. Those numbers should sound familiar. So if I take 6 and divide it by 2, I get 3. And if I divide -11 by 2, I get -5.5. Now, since I started with point A, these values are going to be added to point A. So my x value, I'm going to add that -5.5 to it, which would give me an x value of -0.5. So this is for x. And for y, I'm going to do that with -2, and I'm going to add the 3 to it, which is going to give me 1. And oh my Lanta, guess what? That's the same midpoint we found doing it on the graph. Now there is also a formula, which I haven't told you just yet, but what I'm doing here, I'm kind of using the formula, but kind of not. So I'm going to take the average of my x values. So 5 plus -6 divided by 2. Well, 5 plus -6 is -1. And -1/2 is also -0.5. And then I'm going to do the same thing with y. I'm going to average them, -2 plus 4 divided by 2. Well, -2 plus 4 gives me 2, divided by 2 gives me 1. So 3 different ways, oops, this is y, oy vey. 3 different ways to get to the exact same midpoint number. So if we want to look at our actual formula, what I'm doing is I'm averaging the x values from my points that are given. I'm averaging them together to get x for the midpoint. And then I'm doing the same thing and I'm averaging together the y values from the points I've been given to find the y value for the midpoint. Now again, this is if you're using the formula, but you could use a table or a graph like I just showed you. So we're going to actually do all 3 for this example as well. Now we have to be careful because they said we have to find the other endpoint. So we're going to set up sort of similarly to our previous question. However, the process is going to be a little bit different this time since I'm trying to find the endpoint. So the midpoint is at -2, -3. So I'm going to label this as M, and then A is at 4, 5, 6, 7, -8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -6. So here's A. And I'm going to connect these just so we can see them a little bit better. All right. So again, I'm going to make my triangle. Got my horizontal distance and my vertical distance. So now instead of cutting this in half, I'm going to actually do the opposite. If you think back to our picture before, what we have is one of these small triangles because I've been given the midpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this triangle to make another triangle on the other side to find my endpoint. So I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over. So I'm going to do that again from my midpoint. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is another sideways distance of 6. and then I'm going to go up 3. So 1, 2, 3, and that will give me my endpoint of B. And then I can connect the line. So B is at 4, 0. So I'm going to do the table and the formula to prove to you again that my B value is at 4, 3, and that I can do any of these methods to find my midpoint or my endpoint if I've been given a midpoint. All right, so going to the table, I'm going to put in my X and Y values, and I'm going to do A and my midpoint. So A is at -8, -6. Midpoint is -2, -3. So again, well, didn't leave myself enough room. So this is A, and this is the midpoint. So again, I'm going to look at this change here. This is +3, and this is +6. Now, I don't have to cut that in half this time because I'm going from the midpoint to the other endpoint. So 6 is half of my total distance, and 3 is half of my total distance. So I need to go another 6. So -2 plus 6 gives me +4. And then -3 plus 3, I have to go another 3, gives me 0. So there's again point B as 4, 0. So that's the second way we could find our midpoint. The third way is using my formula. So if I want to find X, I know that one of my X values for my points is -8. I don't know the other one, but I know if I average them, I get -2 because that's my X value for the midpoint. So this is X1 and Y1, and this is X midpoint, Y midpoint. So I'm going to multiply by 2. So I'll have -8 plus X equals -4. And then I'll add 8 and add 8, and X becomes 4. So again, still getting an X value of 4. I'll do the same thing for Y. I know my Y value from A is -6. I don't know Y from B, but when I average them, I get -3. So I'll multiply by 2 and multiply by 2. So -6 plus Y equals -6. Well, the only way that works is if Y is 0. So 3 different ways to get to the exact same answer. All right. Equation in slope-intercept form, perpendicular to line segment DF that passes through point F. All right. So I see that I need to do slope-intercept form. I need the line to be perpendicular through point F. Well, I don't know point F, so I gotta first find point F. So I know that point D is at 4, 0. I know my midpoint is at 0, 2. So this is point D, this is the midpoint, and my goal is to find F. So I'm not splitting the distance in half this time. I'm using it again because I'm trying to find the other endpoint. So this is +2, so I'm going to have to do that again since this is half of the total distance between my endpoints. So my Y value for F is going to be 4. This is -4, so I have to do that again. So my Y value, or excuse me, my X value for my endpoint will be -4. So F is the point -4, 4. Now I already have enough information just in my table to find the slope because that's the second thing I needed to do because I don't know the slope at this very second. So slope is the y change over the x change. Well, the y change is 2. The x change was -4. So this is -1/2. Now I need to be perpendicular, which means I have to do the opposite reciprocal. I need to flip the fraction and change the sign. Well, if I flip the fraction, it will be 2 over 1, which is really just 2. And it'll have a positive sign, so it'll be 2. So now I have to use 2 and f to get myself to slope-intercept form. I can't get there yet because all I have is a point and a slope. So I need to do point slope. And then tweak it to get slope-intercept. So I'll have y minus my y value of 4 equals my slope times x minus my y value, but I'm subtracting a negative, so it'll be plus. And distribute the 2, so I'll have y minus 4 equals 2x plus 8. Then I'll add 4. So my slope-intercept form is y equals 2x plus 12. So this is perpendicular to DF and goes through point F.